everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Humor in the C-Suite. You are in for such a treat. My guest this week is Matt Phillips. He is a leading expert on accelerating innovation. For over 20 years, he has been an in-demand advisor to Fortune 500 companies, large nonprofits, and rapidly growing mid-sized companies. As the founder of Phillips Company, a Chicago-based innovation strategy firm, Matt leads a team of researchers, strategists, it's a hard word to say, guys, and inventors who help organizations invent their future faster through a lean approach to innovation. Their clients include Paramount Pictures, Pepsi, Dell, you name it. He's done it. Matt holds an MBA from Kellogg's and is a graduate of improv at the Second City. I have to say, we had such a great conversation about comedy and corporate culture and how it all fits together. And I'm really excited for you guys to hear. So please enjoy. So I thought we would just start off by telling everyone who you are and sort of what industry you're in. And because I know you've done so much.
Yeah, I've done a number of different things. So currently I run a consulting firm, an innovation consulting firm called Phillips Company. I've run it for about 20 years, and we help big companies, Fortune 500 companies, invent new products. On top of that, I'm a keynote speaker. I think that was how we first met.
Yeah.
And I work as an MC. So the connecting tissue through all that is helping groups come together to think, to innovate, to talk to one another. Because even in our innovation consulting work, many times we're doing offsites with clients and just trying to open the room up and kind of get to deeper conversations.
Wow, that's amazing. And I know, I can't wait to get into it because I know you graduated from the conservatory at Second City. And I know because of my comedy background how much that can lead to innovation and all those things. But we always start off the podcast with, do you have a favorite joke you'd like to tell everyone or share?
Yes. So this is kind of dumb, but it's great.
Yeah.
And it comes from the show 30 Rock. I recently
Okay.
Googled the I'm like, where did this joke come from? So they get full credit. So obviously, megastar Beyonce and
Yeah.
Jay-Z are married. Do you know what Jay-Z called her before they got married?
No.
Fiance.
Thank you, 30 Rock.
It just makes me smile.
Oh my God, it's so
Yeah.
dumb and so perfect. It's so funny because all my guests are like, it's either dumb or dirty. It's like one of the two. Everyone's like, I only have dirty. I'm like, it's not a clean podcast. But that's amazing. So much fun. So much fun. And in your 20 years of helping companies and clients innovate and come up with new ideas and be so creative, how have you used humor in those moments?
Well, it's sort of natural. I think just somehow genetically, I sort of think in jokes and humor. So in even tough situations, I tend to see the humor in it. I tend not to get angry. Instead, I almost kind of live one notch outside of myself, and I see myself as just a player in the room. And so if one person's getting mad at another, I just think, okay, this is kind of ridiculous. This is not solving, world hunger or something.
Yeah.
Uh, so I think my default is just to find humor in things. And then on
Mhm.
top of that, I like to joke around. I like to just kind of loosen up a room and get people comfortable. So it sort of permeates everything we do.
That's amazing. And can you give me an example of how you might do that if two people are fighting and being ridiculous?
It, yeah. So oftentimes what I'll do is just throw in a non sequitur. So, you mentioned Second City, and I think one of the things I learned there was that there are times when you should be serious and times when you should be funny. And one of the key things is to be clear about which one you're being. So in working with corporate clients, if we're talking about something serious, I'm in serious mode. I also have a fancy MBA, which I put up on the shelf equal to my Second City training.
I love
And
that.
so sometimes I feel like I'm in my MBA brain, kind of working through business issues or thinking about what the future might look like. But then at times there just needs to be points, almost like in a Broadway play, where you just let your hair down, where you just go, okay, that's enough thinking about the 18-month roadmap for our business strategy. Let's just relax. So, um, one of the secrets to humor in the moment, oftentimes, is just saying what everyone's thinking, but no one's saying.
Yes.
Right? I
Yes.
mean, as a stand-up, that's probably
Yeah.
a large part of what you do. Um, so, so sometimes it's even just pausing for a moment and going, am I the only one freezing in this room? And then you see all the hands go up, right?
Yeah.
Um, so just, having kind of a playful way of calling out the obvious
Yeah.
does two things. It can be fun or funny, but it also gives you permission after a while, if you're the truth teller, that I can just say, can I just ask, I have a sense that there's a challenge between HR and finance. Is that true? Can we just
Wow.
pull it out? And after a while, you start to get permission to say
Yeah.
the crazy or the bold thing.
Wow. And how are people like when they're hiring you to consult? Do they know you're coming at it from a sort of a comedic point of view a lot of the time?
Yeah, so even when we're first meeting a client, I'm still myself. There's others on my team who have kind of a similar mindset. So I definitely wouldn't
Yeah.
say we're comedians. We're not improv actors. For being hired for consulting or speaking or what have you,
Yeah.
we're there to deliver the business objective, right? There's something that they're paying us to do, and that's first and foremost. But along the way, we're going to be human. There's
Yeah.
a lot of people, and I had periods early in my life when I thought I had to be kind of a robotic business person, and
Yeah.
it turns out, no, you don't. You can just
No.
be yourself, get the work done, but also be yourself and have fun. So, uh,
Well, and nothing sets us apart, especially nowadays because really it's such an even playing field with search engines and AI. Nothing's going to set us apart uh, as strong, I think, as humor in connecting with clients. Everyone will remember that product that from a funny commercial, or ad. Like it's not like it's such a, it really ups the ante in terms of real connection. Do you
yeah,
find that?
yeah, I agree. I mean, many times if you go spend a weekend with friends, you come back and you remember that one weird thing, right? And in fact,
Yeah.
there's been research that people tend to remember the beginning, the end, and one standout moment of
Uh,
anything, going to a
yeah.
theme park, a wedding, what have you. So why not try to kind of orchestrate what those moments are?
Yeah.
Um, so I'll give you an example. If we're leading an offsite for a client, let's say we've got 25 leaders of some big company. Oftentimes we will work as a group. Say there's 25 of us. Pardon me. Or we might work in small breakouts. So maybe we've got
Right.
breakout groups at tables of 4 or 5. They've
Yeah.
worked on something for an hour, and we want them to rotate. So I'll just there's through kind of experimentation over the years, I've got a bunch of kind of standard lines, and one of them is I'll say, we'd like you to rotate now, which is great. You'll meet some new people, perhaps, and if there's any dead weight at that last table, you can just walk away from them. Someone who not the strongest player, and so obviously I'm not calling out any one particular person, but everyone just starts looking
Yeah.
around, laughing,
Yeah. Yeah.
so escape the dead weight. Just little teeny things like that. It doesn't have to be a comedy show. I'm not walking in
Yeah.
with set jokes. It's more just kind of things in the moment.
But do you find when you have used levity, say, instead of comedy, um, in those moments, it helps with team collaboration when you are, asking people to work together who don't really know each other?
It does, and I think it's important when you're trying to get people to know each other, and it's probably even more important when people know each other really well, but there's
Right.
some sort of tension, because what you're trying to do is get them back into their humanness instead of being the VP of finance or the director of marketing and protecting their turf.
Yeah.
If you can just be a human who's trying to enjoy their job,
Yeah.
progressing their career, usually things will go much better.
And did you find when you did take improv classes with Second City, it made you a better listener? It made because the yes and game and like all those little techniques that they do use in improv is really exploring listening and also just extending that graciousness to ideas. Yes, and let's go from there, and add to it and be creative about it. Do you find it has helped you in those situations when you're dealing with Fortune 500 companies?
It definitely has, and just in even in everyday life.
Yeah.
When I first started taking improv classes, I thought what I was going to learn was how to be funny. Right? Here's the funny way to say it, or here's the funny
Yeah.
facial expression. And what you learn is the best improvisers are the ones who are not trying to be funny.
Yeah.
They're just listening to what just happened and
Yeah.
adding on top of it. And if you ever go to see
Yeah.
comedy or watch Whose Line Is It Anyway, many of the funniest things are just that. It's a little observation on what just happened. It's not some over the top pre-planned joke. So one of the biggest things you learn, you hit it perfectly, is to listen and
Yeah.
then add on top of it in a way that's going to help the other people, not draw the attention to yourself or not yank the scene away from people, but
Yeah.
listen and build on top of it.
Oh, so good. So good. And so when you are, how often when you're going into companies and they're bringing you in, are you dealing with staff who are working for you yourself and you're bringing those people in? And how are you dealing? Do you deal differently? Do you use humor differently between, people who actually work for you and then going into these companies? Or do you find your authentic self is just sort of a level playing field?
So I guess I'm generally the same with everyone. I'm probably a little bit more
Yeah.
buttoned up with the clients
Right.
than our own team. Um, I like to think so. I don't know. You can ask my team; they may tell you otherwise. But
Yeah.
internally, I've always had the philosophy that we have a job, we're trying to make money, and all that good stuff. But at the same time, let's enjoy the experience.
Yeah.
Let's support each other and just have fun. So there's a number of things we do internally that um, are, you can call them levity or just fun, that are sort of,
Yeah.
they've kind of organically have come about. Um, Very simple thing is every week I send out an email to the team where I've kind of pulled in data from all the different folks on our team, or just a rundown of all of our projects and things we have coming up. And I will sprinkle jokes throughout it, like my commentary about weird things that happened, or in
Yeah.
the PS, I'll throw in a dad joke or what have you. Uh, so just constantly reminding ourselves, this is not
Yeah.
the end all. We can relax and have fun.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is we have a weekly team meeting, and of
Okay.
course, we go through our projects and planning for the week and that sort of thing. But we've come. Someone on our team a couple years ago called it general nonsense, and general nonsense is talking about whatever the heck you want. So it could be
I love that.
the barbecue that happened this weekend, or the
Yeah.
TED talk, or your uncle is bizarre, or whatever. General nonsense is just kind of part of our culture now,
Yeah.
and it just makes it fun to come to work.
Amazing. And that is such a good way to be. And it does, and it humanizes everyone. And I think because so many people are working remotely part time now as well, it's those meetings and those gatherings are even more important.
Yeah, I think you're right, because I think we've all been in Zoom calls where half the people seem a little bit checked out, or
Yeah.
they're clearly on their phone or what have you.
Yeah.
So my thought is, if we're going to get on a Zoom call, let's have it be a meaningful Zoom call. And
Yeah.
one of the best ways to do that is, ironically, is don't talk business the whole time. Right?
Yes.
Let's talk about what's going on in your life, or a weird thing that I just experienced. Um, and then it makes the work more meaningful, because now, instead of just talking about this, document we all put together in 3 days, now I'm
Yeah.
doing it with someone who's got the crazy uncle. You know,
We all have a crazy uncle, Matt.
we
All of us.
do, we do.
I think everyone does. Have you ever had when you're using humor with a client miss and then sort of have to backtrack or
I have. So sometimes I've had especially I've either taken the joke too far, and I
okay,
can
yeah.
see in their eye they're sort of laughing to go along with it.
Yeah.
And I'll just call it out, like back to the
Yeah.
spot about saying the uncomfortable thing. So if I've said things something, I've gone a little bit too far with the joke, or maybe it came off and it just, as it left my lips, I'm like, oh my gosh, that actually sounds mean or something. I'll
Yeah.
just stop and I'll go, that was not a good joke, right? Like,
Good
I
for
take
you.
that back. just
Yeah.
immediately kind of own it and pull it back in.
And that's all we can do, right? We
Yeah.
all have those missteps. That's what makes us human. I just love the fact you're in both worlds. Whether it's business or comedy, and even though you say it's not comedy, just taking all those techniques that you've learned, and do you find it really enhances your collaboration within your team? Like, are people just really, because you're all in the business of innovating companies and inspiring that? Do you find it helps people take chances?
I think it does, and it's probably even more pronounced when we work with clients, uh, because oftentimes if we're running an offsite for them, you get a sense of their culture very quickly. This
Yes.
is they're very protective, or they're very conservative, or you're not allowed to say certain things. So if you're able to walk in and use some of the techniques of improv or levity or what have you, you can
Yeah.
very quickly just create a shift in the room where suddenly people feel like, oh, you know what? For this 3 day offsite, we're allowed to act in this certain way. Um,
Yes.
and many times that has a kind of a lasting impression on the organization, which is great. But yeah, I think sometimes it's not always about ha ha funny, but just the sense that you know what, we can mix work and play, and many times people default to all work. Play
Yes.
has play has its spot.
Are you finding it because of the mostly generational aspect of work that different generations are looking at work very differently?
I think so. Yeah, I would probably say the number one determinant is the individual or the corporate culture
Yeah.
more than the generations. So we've been in companies where my gosh is a night and day from one place to the next.
It's pretty
Um,
amazing. Even as a speaker, I find that. Like, I go into some companies and you can just tell everyone is so happy and
yeah,
engaged and themselves. And then you go into other companies and you're like, it is like cutting the air with a knife. It is so tense and people are so unhappy. I do find, because you're going in like the multi-generational thing that we were talking about, like I just find Gen Zers have amazing boundaries where they're just like, no, we're actually not gonna, work, 80-hour weeks. We actually want to take our time and have our own lives. And I think there's something said in that where if we do take those breaks to be human and be with our families, it makes us better at work.
so that's absolutely true, and the research has shown that, and we've experienced that. In fact, even in hiring people to our team, there are a couple of people on our team who, when we hired them, they said that was the number one thing they were looking for was just flexibility. So obviously, they had to be a fit with our company and what we need to
Wow.
do. But so as a
Yeah.
company, we've built that into the way we work. Yeah. We essentially have no set hours. There's times when we meet, we have to fly to a certain
Oh.
city and what have you. But outside of that, we don't
Yeah.
have set hours because different people work differently at different times.
That's so great. How great is that? Yeah, because some people are night owls and work better. I work better in the mornings. I'm like, I love getting up early. That's when I do my best writing and I'm most creative, but everyone is so different.
That's awesome. Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
and so it's interesting that so many organizations say you have to work from 9 to 5, but if you're a night owl or you wanted to get up and work at 4 a.m., sometimes you're not rewarded for that because you still have to be there from 9 to 5. So
Yeah, absolutely. And are you finding that like the companies that you're going into, is there the more pressure they put on themselves to be innovative, the usually the less innovative they are, right? When they take a step back and go, okay, I mean, it's coming up with a plan and executing that plan, but it's also having enough room where you can have fun and bring that playfulness in so you could discover things, within that sort of framework. Are you finding, do you have any tools that you actually use to get them out of their stiffness or shells? Are you getting them to play improv games? Are you getting them up and being goofy? You know?
Yeah. So a few thoughts are on improv games. We will do it once in a while. In fact, I was on stage a few days ago in front of 300 people, and I pulled 5 people from the audience and did 2 minutes of improv with them, and
Oh,
it
fun.
just changes. I sort of did that to open a day of keynotes, just to say, hey, this entire conference can be a place where we can mix work and fun.
Yeah.
Um, in the corporate setting, one of the biggest downfalls we see is that oftentimes companies have put such a short timeline on having a team innovate that the odds of them succeeding are low. So the big
Ah,
piece of terminology in corporate America right now is the innovation sprint. It's the idea that in 5 days we're going to try to crank out, a new product or a new strategy, and then if they don't have it at the end of 5 days, the sense is the entire thing was a failure. So one of the things that we've
yeah.
always said is that innovation isn't a sprint; it's a marathon, right? And there are going to be times when it feels tough. You're running uphill. There's a dog chasing you. Who knows what? But to think about innovation and creativity as a marathon, something that may take some time, may take 3 times as long as you thought. But if you stick with it, you eventually can find breakthroughs that can change the course of your organization.
That's amazing. And I love the fact you're, emceeing as well. You have all these different things that you're doing. Do you want to talk about that for a bit? Like, so you're coming from leading this incredible company, helping all these other companies, rebrand and come up with these great new ideas on how they're looking at themselves and the world around them. And then you're going into these conferences and you're emceeing and being a speaker. How are you finding that translates in terms of who you are and what message you're sort of bringing with that?
Well, emceeing is something that came out organically because, I've got to believe you've had this experience. You've gone into an organization or a conference, you speak once, and if it goes well, then they say, "Gosh, we'd love to have you back, but we generally don't rebook speakers. Could you be
Yeah.
our MC?" So that happened
Wow.
a number of times, and then after a while, I finally thought, "Oh my gosh, maybe I'm an MC." So and and the nice thing about that is you can come back every single year. So
Yes.
so then as an MC, you can almost think about it like turning a dial. You can be if the conference or the client needs it, you can be a more serious, put together MC, or you can
Yeah.
be more playful. And so oftentimes when I first talk with a client, I ask them, where would you set that dial? Do you want this to be kind of a more playful um, thing where we're getting people from your organization up on stage and having fun? Or is this a serious moment? Maybe the organization's going through a tough time and they want to sit in that feeling, and
Yeah.
keep the event feeling more serious. So all those things are fine based on different situations, but
Yeah.
I now kind of have a bag of tricks that I can pull from, depending on where they want the event to go.
You love the bag of tricks. I
Yes,
want to hear. Oh, we're going to talk about the bag of tricks, but not on air because they're tricks. A magician never shows his secrets.
that's right. That's right.
That's right. I love that. Do you have any advice that you would give, someone younger or older and how they can bring levity into being innovative and sort of everything you talk about? Do you have any advice for them?
The main thing is I would say is be yourself, which is just something you would put on like a T-shirt. Like, thanks, Matt, for that insight. But one test of that that I heard years ago, which I think is brilliant, is is the person you are in your personal life distinctly different from the person you are at work? And if they are, you're either at the wrong job or you're not bringing all of yourself to work. So it might make sense just to
Right.
say, like, how can I bring more of who I am when I'm hanging out at home or hanging out with a good friend to my work? And then beyond that, if you want to, if that seems scary, start small. Can you insert an extra story? Could you tell a silly thing that happened over the weekend and just let people know more of who you are as a person? And by the way, Gen Z loves that. So Gen Z really loves authenticity and knowing the actual person, not just getting the job done.
Oh, so true. So true. And I think that it makes the job easier and makes you better at your job. we always end the podcast with, do you have a favorite story or funniest story you'd like to share?
So I'll tell you one. So if I can, I'll tell you two related stories that
Love it.
that come from my speaking life. So a number of years ago, I was asked to speak in Finland. So I go to I'm in Helsinki, Finland. There's about 400 people in the audience, and I was giving an hour-long talk that I'd given many times, and I knew, the content's interesting, and there's probably half dozen moments where, there's a joke or a funny image or whatever. So I'm speaking, and I would get to these moments, and there was zero reaction from the audience. So now I'm in my head, and I'm thinking, I think I'm using too many Americanisms or something. They're not getting it, right? I'm getting no reaction. So I finish the entire thing. I get applause. I walk off stage and I'm thinking, how much of that did they understand? Like, did I
Right.
do this the wrong way? And so a gentleman comes up to me, and I'm going to do my best Finnish accent. He goes, "I want to tell you that was very good." And I go, "Oh, thank you, thank you." I said, "Can I ask you a question?" Sometimes people laugh at that image and that image, but no one laughed. And he goes, "Oh, you are very funny." And I said, "Why didn't anyone laugh?" He goes, "We do not laugh." I was like,
That's
I was like,
true.
"What?"
Yes.
So,
Oh my
so
gosh.
I've been to
Yeah.
Finland a number of times now, and that is generally true. They say their personality is at the bar. After a beer or two, they
Yeah.
start to feel more like an American to us. So
Yeah.
then fast forward a few years later, I'm speaking at another conference there with a good friend of mine from the US. His name is Ron, and he and I just like set each other off, like laughing and having a good time. We spoke together. So we get done, and a couple that we know, their husband wife couple, they said, "We would love to invite you to our home for dinner." And we're like, "Oh my gosh, that's an incredible honor. Thank you." So they said, "It's very easy. Just hop on this train. Our home is right near the train station. We'll meet you there. It's about 30 minutes." Cool. So Ron and I hop on the train. And like we do, we're, just talking about the day and just having a great time and, catching up and what have you. So we get to the train station, we get off, and there's the couple that invited us to come to their house for dinner. And they said, "How was your train ride?" And we said, "Oh, it was terrific. It was great." And the wife says, "Isn't it amazing how no one speaks on finished trains?" And we're like,
Oh.
"Oh no."
Oh
We
no.
were laughing and joking for 30 minutes,
That's great.
deeply offending a country, and we had a good
Yes.
time, but,
It's like, well, it's not a
no,
library. So
well, not with us on the train, so read your guidebook before you get to the country. That's the big takeaway.
Oh my gosh. I've had so much fun chatting with you. You have so much insight. And I love just all the aspects of, what you're doing, whether it's with your company or you're speaking, you're emceeing, and how you just fall into stuff and you just go with the flow. It's pretty amazing, that, and it's brave as well, I
Oh, well,
think,
thank you.
to sort of, yeah, just to sort of listen to the universe, just pushing you, going, you should try this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sometimes it's
It's
scary, but
amazing.
you might run into something that works out once in a while.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. Where can people find you if they want to connect? And
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn is a good place. Just Matt
yeah,
Phillips. If you drop in innovation, you'll probably find me. I run a firm
I
called
love it.
Phillips and Company. If you put that in with the word
Okay.
Chicago, you'll probably find us. But that's it. Our web address is phillips-co.com.
I love it. Thank you so much for being a guest on Humor in the
Thanks for
Season.
having me. So much fun. Thanks.